My name is Brian Hough, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development for King Schools. And the topic that I'm going to talk about is aviation maintenance. And this is a passion of mine that have been working on, and talked to John and Martha about how do we create a program that is going to help us. So as pilots, we're going to come to a screeching halt, because the one thing that you're going to see in my particular presentation and by the Boeing study, we need 690,000 new A&P mechanics in the next 20 years. Do you know how many mechanic schools there are around by you? How many of you have them in your city? There's just not many. And usually the FAA is going to limit that if they're a 147, they can have 20, 25 students enrolled, something like that. The fallout rate, usually they're going to lose about 10 to 15 of those and certain things. So I wanted to think about how we can think outside the box. How can we create a program that's going to work to not only help grow that program with the 18 to 20-some-year-old student that can go to a full-time maintenance program, but those of you that know that I started the Liberty University online flight training affiliate program. The reason for the success behind that was my model that I wanted to pursue and who I wanted to go after in my business plan was the career changer. So that 30 to 40-something-year-old that already has a full-time job, they hate it. But they're locked in, they have a family, they have a full-time job, they can't go to training full-time. So create a program that they can do online, and they can now do this evenings and weekends around their schedules, around their son's soccer game and daughter's recital and church services and everything else that they've got in their commitments. So if you make it flexible, you've got a whole lot more business. The best thing is, these are your dedicated students. And that's why you saw the FTA program excel rapidly, is that was our student base. Those are the students that many of the schools forgot about. And so if we think maintenance and we think that mindset about how can we do a part-time program, and I know a lot of people will bring up, well, we have a maintenance program, but we can do this in a year. We can do this in 9 months. We can do this. Don't worry about the time. If you can put together a particular program, even if it takes them 2 years part-time, they're going to be happy. You're going to make their day, and we'll show you ways that you can do this and a little bit of revenue that you can make on the side. Because first set of hands, how many of you flight school owners are here? Okay. How many of you have a maintenance facility? Okay, how many of you have more than one mechanic out in that maintenance facility? Okay, you're ready. You can actually train mechanics. So you need a curriculum, you need to know what the tasks are, and you work with something. It's as easy as putting that A&P on your scheduling system. So if you're using MyFBO, Flight Schedule Pro, any of these other schedulers, for forces, you schedule your resources that are on there. Make your A&P a resource. Now, how much do we charge for that particular person? About, if you're charging $80 an hour for your instructor, charge $80 an hour for your mechanic. And the student's going to schedule time with that mechanic, that they're going to go out in the shop. There's over 500 tasks that they're going to go through with that particular mechanic out in the shop. Once they learn something, you're going to cut that mechanic loose so that they can come out there in the shop and do something. So here's the example. You have a flat tire. Okay, the mechanic has the students, and they're going to teach those students how to change that tire. Now, you have another flat tire. After that student has been taught how to do that, the mechanic can text that student and say, I've got a flat tire on this airplane. Would you like to come in and take care of it? I've got a 100-hour inspection. They bring in the students and they watch how we open up an airplane and prepare it for a 100-hour. Now you've got another one coming in for a 100-hour. You text the students, that mechanic does, and says, I've got a 100-hour coming in. Would you like to come in and do this? So they get the experience. You actually get we could call it grunt labor, out of that. But that mechanic is going to decide, if you're familiar with CTA, which our new maintenance course is in, you have practice and perform. That mechanic is going to get that student to the perform level. And when they're comfortable texting that student and allowing them to do something in the maintenance shop. So you do this. You can do them all out of order. And what this I'm going to talk about is the OJT practice of on-job training. So the problem we talk about that, and I went through a lot of this already, and what the solution is and how we have the course. Our course is one track. The ground is the same. All the practical tasks are the same because you take the same practical test at the end. So we use the term, just like in pilots, there's part 61 and 141. In maintenance, you have OJT, which is your on-the-job training, or you have 147, which is your approved that requires an op spec. So the only difference between the two is 147 is now proficiency based. So they've removed the hour requirement, which used to require 1,900 contact hours. And with that 1,900 contact hours, online training or anything else was never permitted. Now it is. So you don't have 1,900 contact hours, it's proficiency based. And the other benefit of 147 is, just like in a 141 program, you're going to give a final progress check and you're going to sign that person off to take their written and take the practical test at the end of general, at the end of airframe, at the end of power plant. So the other option with OJT is the student is going to do the ground course, then they're going to work under the A&P. In CTA, we actually have the student will log all of their activities that they do with an A&P. You're required to log that training activity, and then at 18 months or at 30 months, the student will take that log and go to the FSDO. At 18 months, they have the ability to test for general and one other exam. So they can test general in airframe or general in power plant following 18 months. At 30 months, they could test for all three. So they just need to show in a log that they have 18 months of working under the direction of an A&P, that they've completed a ground course, that they're ready for the written exam. The endorsement for the written exam and the endorsement for the practical comes from the FSDO, not from a school. So it's just your OJTs building up that particular knowledge. So you have the particular course that King School sells. It's a retail price on this for all three, for general, airframe, power plant, $595. All of you that are partners know you get 40% off of that. So you can now retail that to your students. You've got an A&P curriculum. And it works with the iPad app, just like many of you use our instructor app. Well, you can teach your mechanics how to use an iPad too, because the instructor app will work for the mechanics. So they can keep that out there on their toolbox. They can check off all of the different tasks that they do and e-sign that, becomes an electronic record for them. So I've got everybody that this can go into: colleges and university programs, aviation maintenance training schools, flight schools, FBOs, 145, MROs, airlines. You're seeing more and more airlines need mechanics, obviously, and they're going into apprenticeship programs, which is just a fancy way of saying OJT. So they're following this particular model. And so high school STEM programs, I talked about it a little bit earlier with drones, okay? This is a big deal. So what I've told high schools is they want to get into it. They want to get their general out of the way in high school. And how do I do that? Well, the practical or skills that are required in general is like two things. It's, line or fuel lines and fittings is about the only practical thing that you do. So those particular students will work with a flight school. And what I tell them to do is, you've got those big yellow buses, make a partnership with the flight school and go down there, and then they're going to basically pay for some time from your mechanic to go through some of these practical skills, and the student can do the rest of this online with somebody in their particular classroom. And then once they complete the general, they flow into your program following high school and can get their airframe and get their power plant. So we can start with them young. We can do the part-time program that I was talking about. So the opportunities are pretty much endless. And so the 147 programs, a lot of this I've covered. The 147 programs can be a little bit daunting and scary, as you know, like with 141. As people apply, you send in a letter of intent, and there can be a delay. So some of the times right now I'm hearing 2 years for somebody to get, 147 approval. And what are the benefits? It's just what I mentioned. It shortens up the time a little bit, but not necessarily. Because for the practical skills, you still have to know all 500 of those practical skills. So even though they've made it proficiency based, think about it. If we do 500 skills and each one of them takes an hour of instruction from a mechanic, that's 500 hours over a year. So you've got, about 10 hours of instruction a week is a pretty rigorous program. And then not only the instruction, but you're going to want to practice some of that. So the year-long programs that are out there, and Liberty had one. The problem is it was an 8-hour a day, 5 days a week, every week. There was no time off for spring break or anything like that. So realistic programs are usually a year and a half that you're going to see out there, and some of them are 2-year programs that allow for a little bit more flexibility in attendance. But even though 147 is telling you that you can now do it faster, be a little bit careful on that because you still have to know the material. And so those are the reasons. What I'm saying is, if you just went OJT, now the FAA is not going to tell you how many students you can enroll. Where 147, they're going to look at your equipment that you have, the number of mechanics that you have, and limit your enrollment. OJT, you could have 10, 15, 20, but I wouldn't even start that big. If you are a school, and I mentioned earlier, $80 an hour, 500 hours, that's $40,000. Pure revenue on top of it because you already have that maintenance shop. Imagine doing 4 of those a year that you enrolled. Be $160,000 extra revenue to everybody's bottom line. That makes a big deal. So, and we don't need a huge growth number. If we had 300 flight schools, which I believe that's what King Schools works with now, if each one of them was to do 2 a year, just think of it. We'd have 600 additional mechanics, that could go through the pipeline. So if everybody does a little bit, it would be, phenomenal. If somebody wants to do, 10, 20, 30, whatever, it's a great dent. But this is a demand, and it's something that we need to help with. And I just already spoke ahead of it. So what we did is in the brochure, for those of you that haven't picked up your brochure already, in the last page, there is a free course that is our A&P course. This is a live course. Plug it in, turn it on, try it out. If you don't have your program anymore or need another one, please go over to the table and grab those. We have, there's 2 free courses that are in there. One is our private pilot course, if you haven't seen it. The other one is the maintenance course. So take a look at that. Download the app to use with that. And certainly make sure that everything works. So as partners, if you're not a partner with King Schools, you know that you become an exclusive reseller with King Schools. Every one of our partners does. We extend our 40% discount to all of our products for all of the partners. You have access to your own dedicated website that you log into. So all of our 100 courses that King sells, you can resell, including this one. And but the other nice thing is, like your airport, you can be kind of the go-to. If somebody needs a FERC, you can sell them a FERC. They need, they want drone courses or anything, you become the reseller. So we used to provide physical product that you could put in your pilot shop. We've gotten away from that because we didn't have physical product. Now with the digital side, we give you access to that back. And I sped through to kind of catch up with time. Plus, nobody wants to listen to me. I've been told I have a face for radio, so I stay behind the scenes. So, questions on the maintenance side. I know I've talked to 3 different schools already that have questions on how do we implement this, what is the best way to go forward, and if you don't want to do it in a large audience, pull me aside afterwards. This has been a passion of mine, and it's something that people are very excited about. That can be a revenue generator for you, but it certainly, we've got to fix the problem. A lot of flight schools out there are short mechanics. This can be a way that you can actually interview your mechanics before you hire them, because they're grunt laborers that are out there, working for you, and you can determine, is that guy showing up? Are they showing up on time? Or they have a poor attitude? Whatever. So anyway, I'll pause. Any questions on anything with the maintenance side? Yes, sir.
Can I point out something with that? We've had maintenance shop 41.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So we have our own maintenance and a relatively small fleet, but we got a similar technique to what Brian was talking about, but a little different. We had a kid come along, wanted to do anything, wash airplanes, whatever. We started to have him help out in the shop, and now he's going to A&P school. Luckily, we have a local A&P school. We have found the products from the A&P schools are variable. Some of them are really good, especially with a bit more training, and some of them, you really can't have them in your shop. It's more trouble than it's worth. Takes, in my case, my time, a lot more of my time than just if I do it myself. But William, our kid who came in to start washing airplanes, goes to A&P school 4 days a week. He comes to us 2 hours a day every day, and then all day Friday. And what he gets is he gets the ability to practice the new skills that he learned in A&P school on real live airplanes. For instance, engines that need actual new parts and fitting of new parts and so on, compared with pulling an old part off an old engine and putting it back on again. So he gets that experience, and as he's developed his skills and experience, I can trust him to do more and more without me being there to watch him. Of course, I still go and inspect everything he's done, but that to us has been a really valuable way of getting someone that we know, that we trust, that knows how I do things and how I like things done on our airplanes. And so it's similar to what Brian was talking about, but you can do it with someone on who's also going to a 147 school, and you help them to gain that additional real-world experience that they don't see in their school.
No, that's a great point. And one other thing is, I always had a desire to be a mechanic, but I was going through flight training, and I never missed a training day due to a maintenance on an aircraft or due to weather. I just had that perfect training opportunity all the way through. I'm joking, because all of those are your potential maintenance candidates too. If somebody would have told me that I could go become an A&P while I'm going through training, I definitely had the time for it. 1 out of every 3 activities I had scheduled were grounded, so I could have gone into the shop. I mean, it was either something that I broke on the airplane and then now I could go learn how to fix it, or I'd go in there and learn how to do something else on it. I had the time and I had the will, and it would have made me a better pilot. So you could put together a package that creates an A&P and a pilot at the same time. So there's going to be an awful lot of interest on something like that, and you've got hundreds of those. So that may be something to think about. And guess what? You don't need a medical for that. So if you ever lost your medical, now you can become the mechanic. Pamela?
So, and it's a way to finance your pilot training. So it's a good option.
Yeah, definitely. It's there are opportunities out there, and you obviously some of the questions that have come up is, what about your insurance? Well, obviously everybody's going to talk to your insurance carrier. You carry general liability. Will it allow somebody out there wrenching on this? What for workers' comp? Some of the airlines that I spoke to actually made them paid interns, and then it was covered under workers' comp and things like that. So every state's different, and I don't want to get into that. You guys will know and can check on, can you have unpaid interns in there? But again, thank you very much. This is definitely a passion of mine, and it's something that we put together as an integrated program. And we're working with more and more university partners, and nudge, nudge, Liberty. Since this is being recorded, I've been talking to them since I created this wonderful FTA network about rolling out maintenance training with that also. So anyway, I'm not afraid to say that. Hi, guys. So, all right.